So you already had met Mr. Hamid, like way before you started the film, and he was one of the sort of a catalyst for the film in a way, right?
I met him. Yeah, my wife is actually his niece. So when I read this newspaper article in Sri Lanka, and I saw they had the same name, and I was like, "Do you know this guy?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it's my uncle." And I said, "Can I meet him? And then I come to Bombay." You know, we were not romantically involved at that point, nor are we anymore. Yeah, so she was like, "Sure." So I met him, and he actually didn't really say a lot. You know, he was just kind of. He sort of didn't think it was a very big deal to talk about these things. It was actually, like I said, this Bill Haddad guy was the one that sort of really made me fully understand the importance of what had happened. And actually, the interesting thing is, I think Dr. Hamid's a real hero. You know, I always say if he were Swiss or German, everybody in the world would know his name. I'm totally convinced that is true. And his role in HIV/AIDS is actually just a very small part of what he's done, his contribution. As we sort of allude to in the film, he was the one and only person that worked for 10 years on his own without any support to get the Indian patent law changed. And that patent law changing has certainly saved hundreds of millions of lives and made billions of people's lives better throughout the world. Because when you go to Peru, for example, and you go into the chemist shop, in a poorer neighborhood, which are most of the neighborhoods, all the medicines are from India, 100%. So when we actually did shoot a little bit in Peru. We didn't end up using that part, so it's on the DVD in the deleted scenes. But it was interesting. People were actually seeking us out. They'd heard we were around. There had been a little thing in the newspaper or something. People actually came to find us and said, we don't know who to thank, but we want to thank you. You saved my brother's life or something. And it wasn't us, of course, but they wanted to thank India actually for that. And it's amazing that the Indian government has worked so hard to actually destroy access to medicine in many ways, and to destroy this incredible generic drug industry which is here, which is really the envy of the world. There are 25,000 drug companies in India producing very, very high quality drugs that are approved by every single regulatory agency, from the FDA to World Health Organization, etc. The lowest prices in the world. Just next door in Pakistan, drug prices are 10 times higher. People don't realize that. People just do without. That's just how it is. That's how it was here before 1970. So, that contribution that he made is, you see things like, that pilot that saved, that landed that plane on the Hudson River is like hailed for years as the biggest hero, and rightfully so. But, somebody that has saved millions and even hundreds of millions of lives indirectly, is not even really known in his own country. It's quite remarkable.
Congratulate you on this film, because it's not an easy film to make, and I'm sure you must have had, what was your ratio of footage that you used and didn't use?
That's a good question. My memory is foggy. It's amazing. I see how foggy my memory gets after sort of a year and a half.
Approximately.
I think we shot about 120 hours. Yeah. Wow. But a much bigger ratio to the amount of really boring archival material I had to sit through. Not just me. Me alone, I feel really sorry for myself. But a couple of other people helping us. There was at least, I would say, 1,000 hours of stuff there.
That's what that scene which is there in the film, the meeting which you got, which is supposed to be a private meeting. It's amazing that you managed to get stuff like that.
That was actually one of the easier pieces to get, because I just wrote to the European Commission and said, I'd seen somewhere that there was a BBC film that was made about Dr. Hamid, and there was a little clip from that, and so I wrote to the European Commission, and it was a closed-door meeting, which is why you don't see him talking. But they allowed journalists to come in and sort of shoot the room once everybody was seated, and then they kind of kicked them out. And actually, just as an aside, it was really, really funny to watch that footage, because I have a sort of love-hate relationship with a lot of the HIV activists, because a lot of them, especially from the Western countries, are really, they kind of stumbled into a great gig where they, are like jetting all over the world, sort of, in high style, and going to, you see them posting on Facebook with their, at these conferences, like going down the water slide, and it's never in Lusaka, it's always in like Rio, and Australia and whatever. So anyway, at that meeting, it was interesting. They were just shooting some B-roll of the attendees, and you see the activists were like, you know, I had an amazing lobster dinner for lunch and all this stuff, and we're going skiing afterwards, you know, right? So, but they don't realize like this is not, you know, people are kind of recording what they're saying. So I was tempted briefly to throw some of that in there, but it would have been quite